what is high order function and where will you learn it? High order function are functions that operates in other functions by either taking them as inputs or returning them. And if we can look at this complexity, you already know why you need to learn it. This type of functions has implementation in a lot of programming languages, not only in JavaScript. It is implemented in Go, Python, and many other programming languages out there. I'm quite sure you may need to learn this kind of skill in order to fit in to the programming field of today. And apart from that also, it is one of the frequently asked questions when it comes to interview questions. That's why I actually put it as a part of this 100 days JavaScript interview question challenge that we are actually doing with you guys. So without further ado, let's jump right into our editor and see what we can do about this high order function. Here we have two functions given to us. So let's first explore the functions and see. First of all, we have this function filter odd, and this function here takes array as input, and here we give it like empty array, then we iterate through the array that we are taking as argument up here. And after the iteration, then we are asking if the specific number of that array is not divisible by 2, then we want that number to be pushed to our new array that we just defined here. Else, that number is not going to be pushed. So after, when the iteration finishes and all the numbers which are not divisible by 2 are being pushed up here, then we'll return whatever the value it is down here, so that we can use it for whatever we want to use it for. So this is it for the first function. The second function is also filtering all the even numbers from a given array. So it also has a similar functionality like the above, but instead of looking for the numbers which are not divisible by 2, it is actually looking for numbers which are divisible by 2 and doing the same iteration as the above function is doing. So now we have these two functions, but writing all this complexity, you can see there are a lot of similarities between these two functions. This function and this function has a lot in common. Then we need to find a way in order to make sure that these two functions, we are able to solve them using only one function. So that is where high order function comes into rescue, because one thing that actually is not the same in these two functions is the logic here. This logic and this logic is not the same. This logic here is looking for numbers which are divisible by 2, while this logic in the above function here is looking for numbers which are not divisible by 2. So we need to write a function that is actually going to take a logic based on which logic is given, but we are going to write one function. So let's focus on the common things that these two functions have. Let's begin. Here we actually created a function called filter function, which takes in array just like the above function, but it also takes a second parameter or argument which is called back here. And here we are creating empty array just like what we actually did in this above function here. Then we are iterating through the values of that array which we are taking as argument up here. And here, instead of giving all this if and else condition, we are just saying, okay, if the condition of the callback function is satisfied, then push all the values that satisfies the condition into this new array that we created up here. Else, just give us none, like that. So that is it. Then we are returning whatever value which has been pushed into our filtered array up here. So yeah, this is the function that we actually created in order to help us, like in high order function. This function here now is using high order function. So one thing that we are going to notice about this is this callback here is actually a function. That's why here it is taking these numbers as argument. And now we are going to do like this. We're going to create a new function which is going to have the logic that we want in order to operate whatever we want to operate using this function. Yeah, here we have this small function which is just returning like x is not divisible by 2. That is all. If x is not divisible by 2, then it will now trigger this whatever. Then now if this is true, then it is going to push whatever value which is not divisible by 2 into our array up here. So that is exactly how it is going to work. Let's try and see the output here, like console.log here. Then we have okay, here in our console.log we have filter function which is taking array which we already defined up there and is odd here. If you didn't actually see the array here, this is the array we are talking about, the array of numbers from 1 to 10, and this is exactly what we are working with here. So yeah, with this one, if we are to run this function here like this, we are going to say, oh okay, supposed to be 2 like this. Okay, yeah, now on running this, now you can see it's giving us 1 3 5 7 9. You see, now this logic is actually working, and now you can see like the entire abstraction that we did. Instead of writing the upper function and the other function all together, we are now only writing this one function and giving it this small logic here in order to be implemented there. This actually saves you a lot. It saves you a lot of work, and at the same time it saves you a bug that you will have encountered in your code because of the complexity of the code. With this you can be able to like abstract all the complexity of your code, and that is one hell of advantage when it comes to high order function. This is how you implement a function taking another function as argument. So now let's move on to a function that returns another function. I just implement this function, and this function here returns another function. So we have a function called calculate which takes in operation, and here it passes the same operation in the switch statement. Then if the case is add, then it has to return an anonymous function which is going to display or print for us whatever value it is that this function gives. This function returns a function that takes in 2 arguments, which is a and b, and these 2 arguments are then used in order to compute, or let me say to calculate whatever the value that we are going to work with. So here this function here, it works with addition, subtraction and division. So let's come here and try to console it out and see exactly what is going on in this function. So here this is log L, then let's say calculate like that. It is a function, so it takes in like add. Let's say add. Yeah, let's just print the function with add, and let's see exactly what is going to display in the console. That what we are actually displaying is a function, and that function is not named. It is a unnamed function. Anonymous function means the function with no name. So okay, it is actually talking about this function here. This inner function which is being returned here is the anonymous function this thing is talking about. So okay, here, like if we are to come here and give it a values like 5 and 7. Okay, then after this you run it again, it will immediately give you addition of that specific value. You see, like 5 and 7 is equal to 12. That is it. But if we are to change this from addition to subtraction, then it will do exactly what it's supposed to do. Subtraction like this, then we run it will give us exactly what it's supposed to do. And if we are to change this to division, the same thing happens. And yeah, if you can see from this, actually our function is working so well. And now what actually makes this function a high order function is because it returns a function inside. You know, it returns another function, and that is the reason this function is high order function. And yeah, this is the coverage entirely of high order function that I've prepared for you for this episode. And I'm quite sure there are a lot of things that you need to learn about high order function. As I was illustrating earlier, it is one of the topic which most interviewers like to ask about. And if you are really going to face interview, or you are really preparing to apply for a job, you need to make sure that you understand these concepts and at least have a deep root understanding of what high order function is. And if you have been given any kind of challenge, you can be able to solve it based on the understanding of what high order function is. Yeah, and this is the end of this episode. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.